We have, assisting me in the opining department, my titans of tumult, my regulars for Monday, Amy Ridenauer, chairman of the National Center for Public Policy Research. Amy, good to have you back.
Thank you, Alan.
Also, Robert Weiner, Democratic strategist, columnist, and former communications director for Clinton drug czar General Barry McCaffrey. He's also former chief of staff for the House Committee on Aging. Bob, good to have you. How are you today?
I'm good, Alan. Good to be with you. But if you're going to hone in on that, Congressman Issa, the Republican chair of the Oversight Committee, knew about the investigation and was informed a year ago. So if we're talking about a week or so, what about a year ago by the Republicans not knowing about this and doing nothing about it?
No, he never denied it. It was his office that submitted the report that kicked off the investigation. He never denied it. He's just never denied it.
And therefore, you make my point.
Bob is one of the most audacious spinners I have ever known. To blame the Republicans who were sending letters to the executive branch asking what happened. A year ago they were asking this out of the Senate as well. They're the ones that kick-started the investigation in the first place. You can hardly blame people who started the investigation calling it a cover-up. That's not a cover-up.
So, Bob, I want to get exactly. So I want to get back to my original question, Bob. What do you think about senior Obama advisor Dan Pfeiffer saying that the White House only learned about it a week ago when, in fact, they learned it over a month ago?
That's a matter of a lawyer being confidential with his information. I stick with what I said.
You don't give a false answer.
I didn't say it was right. I would even say it's incompetent. But it is
No.
not. But it's not as bad as Issa trying to blame everybody else when he could have done something about this a year ago.
Bob, I got to tell you, if I can, let me weigh in here very quickly. If I could weigh in here very quickly, Bob, the idea of you and yours chastising Republicans because they were busy gathering information and didn't enforce anything at the same time.
That's what it is.
While we have, on the other hand, the report finally coming out and then the administration deliberately misinforming the American public when inquired about, to me is a bit like a skunk calling the other guy stinky.
There's no difference in enforcement between the power of the House Oversight Committee, which I was the spokesman of, which is Issa's committee, and an IG report. Either one has the power of the credibility of the government coming out with the information.
I'd love it, Bob, if you would just defend your guy on point. But when you go ahead and use...
I said incompetent and not knowing. What more would you like?
How about incompetent and not knowing is a disconnected measure as well, because it lets you off the hook when it comes to applying value labels such as right and wrong. And when you alter it in this fashion,
I think the lawyer was
you dodge accountability.
It shouldn't be the White House lawyer for handling it that way. Of course he should have gone to Obama and said this is what's going on. But
we have assisting me in the opining department, old friends to the show, my, if you will, titans of tumult. Amy Ridenauer, chairman of the National Center for Public Policy Research. Amy, good to have you back.
Thank you.
Joining us as well, Robert Weiner, Democratic strategist, columnist, and former communications director for Clinton drug czar General Barry McCaffrey. How you doing, Bob? Do we still have Bob?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good. I just said hello.
And I said hi, Alan, but it didn't come through.
No, it didn't. Now, ProPublica further also told us that no confidential applications of liberal groups were given in that same vein. No liberal groups with a pending tax-exempt status were included. Again, only conservatives. So, Bob, how is this not evidence of some kind of political bias being demonstrated by some at the IRS? Bob Weiner.
Well, I think Amy's got it right. You don't know who did what or when, and you don't know exactly what happened here. That's got to be found out, Alan. And the president has been very clear that this is outrageous behavior, and any of it that happened is dead wrong and inexcusable and outrageous. So, I mean, the president has been clear on this. Nobody wants anybody at any level, if there were shenanigans going on at middle or lower levels or wherever it was, whatever level, if somebody decided to be partisan in abusing the IRS, that reeks of Richard Nixon, and there's no question that it's bad. The difference is that Richard Nixon was Richard Nixon doing it, and he gave the instructions, and we got him on tape doing it. Obama didn't. But if mid-level and lower-level people did it, it is exactly what we do not want the IRS to do.
How can the IRS, on one hand, acknowledge being and apologizing for being politically selective, while at the same time claiming not to be politically motivated? I mean, you might as well try to separate.
And the answer is that having worked in the government for 22 years, there are civil servants at every stage, at every level, and they all have ideologies, and whether we like it or not, they actually implement those ideologies. These are not nonpartisan people, no matter what we try to think that they are. So you have people at all levels trying to be big fish in their little ponds.
Well, I would say it's an awfully funny thing if everybody in the civil service is acting politically, but I would say two arguments about that. the conservatives in the civil service seem to be behaving themselves. That is not at all surprising, as it is typical throughout society. The second thing is, what the heck do we have a big government for if even the civil servants, who are supposed to be neutral, are acting like little tyrants on behalf of their own petty ideologies? That is a strong, strong argument for a very small, limited government.
Bob, the mic is yours.
Well, I don't question, Amy, that it shouldn't happen, but you have to have people to run the government, and people have their views. The Hatch Act, which actually, when I worked for Ed Koch, we helped to write and amend the Hatch Act because it went through the House Administration Committee, which he was on, is very clear of giving people, including civil servants, the right to have their own politics off hours. The problem is when they bring it in on hours.
Yeah.
Bob, let me ask you this. The administration is not liking the idea of having an independent counsel. Why do you think that is? Is it because he's afraid the findings of such a special prosecutor would have less controllable repercussions than would, let's say, congressional or DOJ findings? He is rejecting the idea of assigning a special prosecutor. Is it because he's afraid that he doesn't have the influence with one of these as he would with his complaint against Congress, as well as obviously the subordinate role the DOJ has under the president?
Well, you name me one administration of either party that has welcomed a special prosecutor and said, oh, I want an investigation so I can be harassed regardless and have all the press, all the attention, and all of the misery. These guys are desperate to go in, do anything against Hillary and Obama, and this is just another vehicle to do it.